So, okay, I have here with me is Anibus, and I met him on Twitter, or was having a tweet chat with him on Twitter. He has a very interesting background, and I just wanted to get to know him more. So, I'm calling actually from Skype.
Yes, how are you doing?
I'm doing fine. Yeah.
Awesome.
So, looking at your Twitter, it seems to be you're into like stuff like Dr. Michael York.
Um, who, Dr. York? No, slightly. Yeah,
Slightly
Dr. York's a very brilliant man. Yeah, Dr. York's a very brilliant man.
interesting because I have
I
some of
don't
the
know
Holy
about his,
Tablet books. Sorry.
yeah, I don't know about his, wrongdoings or whatnot. I don't know anything about any of that or what really truly happened. I'm not here to defend him or not, but when it comes to his ancient knowledge and history, he's a genius.
Interesting. I mean, I have some of
Yeah.
his holy tablets, and I find them quite interesting. I like the whole science fiction and fantasy part of it all. Other than that, I
Right.
know he's in jail right next to Ted Kaczynski, the Yuma bomber, who I find really interesting.
Right.
But you have on your front you have a pinned tweet. It says the Holy Book of Maat. Is that how you pronounce it?
Yes, my yacht.
Mayat.
Most definitely.
Okay, it's
Yes, sir.
like from what I understand, it's you also have I'mModernAfrican.com, and it's like
Yeah, a lot of people say I'm not an African. Yeah.
interesting. It's like this is finds it I find it interesting because it's very much like esoteric like very esoteric religion like
Right.
what should I call it? You have a podcast. It says the Voice of Reason on I'm looking at your website right now, March 2nd, 2016. My one host, Robert Stark, he used to have the Voice of Reason. There was this strange radio station a few years ago, and Robert Stark used to be on that. But it says the voice. I think that's really funny. That this is another show called The Voice of Reason on.
Right. Most definitely. Yeah, so when we talk about the law of Mayat, when we talk about the book and we speak about this, my only question for people is, do you find a lot of similarities with all religions, or do you find religions to be totally different?
Um, I find religion a really interesting thing. I've always
Right.
associated myself with Christianity, though I do understand. I've been into these weird subcultures. I have some like white
Hmm.
nationalist friends who are into like
Right.
paganism. But the thing is, like, they're in this
Right.
weird Irish, like, Hell's
Saturnalia and
Angels.
all that good stuff.
All that Hell's Angels, like, paganism. I never really understood that. And
Right.
then, like, from
Right.
what I'm saying on this African side,
Interpretation.
it's like
Right.
this esoteric African thing, very Egyptian, and I always found that fascinating, especially the background on
Yes.
that. And I feel like on those two racial backgrounds, people tend to cling on to these traditions and these things that mean more to themselves than we do exist in this strange postmodern era.
Most definitely, and that would be a strategy in order to hold and preserve, happiness. Sometimes preserve hope, in a sense, to some people that are not doing too well today, financially or physically or whatnot. You always run back to God. Hey, I'm sick, and please God help me. If you could get me through this one, I'll never turn on you again. That's just what people do. It's a habit, I guess, so to speak, or it might be something more. I don't know, but but what I'm getting to is that all these religions are the same, and all of them have a deity to save you. Do you agree that they all have a deity to save you? Is there any of that difference?
It sounds very egalitarian. Is that true?
What sounds?
Like egalitarian, as in it's very equality based, or not really?
What does? I'm
Well,
asking you what
when you
does.
said
What
all
does?
religions, everyone comes from a same background. I'm asking you, is that like
Oh, you.
egalitarian based or?
Oh, I don't know. It's all relative. It's actually
Interesting.
relative. is relative to how, who, or what perceives anything. Because, some people look at bad as evil, and some people look at evil as, get an eye for an eye, getting back at, making sure something's justified. Some people believe in karma. I actually don't know any religion, even when they say they're the devil or they are God. I don't know any one of them that doesn't believe in karma. So,
I think
it's relative. It's relative.
Interesting. When I think of karma, I think of like an Asian religion. How much of that Asian religion has influenced what you're talking about?
I don't know. I've studied Shintoism, Buddhism, Christianity, Islam. I've studied a lot, and I'm just
interesting.
I don't know. I'm blended. I'm so blended.
Do you know
what I did find?
I'm sorry. What's that?
But what I did find very interesting is that all of these gods actually referred to their one as the Christ. All of them have a Christ God, and everybody is actually taking the same stories that has been around since day one. That's the issue, that they're all the same and they're all similar.
Yeah, I can understand.
Right. So what I thought about is, I would believe, if it was seen, that this just explains one thing, that there's something that looks like what people are talking about. Now, I don't know if these intuitions or possessions actually grew beyond or into independently, or if it was taken from somebody else's literature and purely copied, right?
Yeah.
But the issue is that they're all similar, and they all come from one book. You got to find the oldest book that has the stuff in it, and that book I do present to you now comes from ancient Africa, and it's called the Book of Mayat.
Interesting. It reminds me of something. When you're talking about how these relative religions happen, there's something called the Axis period, which Karl Jasper, he's this German philosopher, talks about, where all these religions came to the same conclusion, but were building up, and then just so happens to meet together. Where you're seeing that the Book of Mayat has something to do with that, correct?
I would say the Book of Mayat is very supplemental to anybody else's religion. There's 3 periods and times that are presented in the book, and I think everybody could relate and actually see what is, that it offers a little more insight even to their holy book or their extra spiritual searching. And I believe it's a very good supplement, and I don't believe it harms or heals any other book out there. I just think it brings more understanding.
Do you think this book could help me?
I believe it can help anyone.
That's interesting. Have you been active in politics at all? What is your activity in politics? Is it none, or you're more religious based?
I'm religious based. I don't get into politics. God's my judge. I don't really care about what's going on over there, because if you ask me, I'm a big conspiracy theorist. So whatever's going to happen is going to happen. I don't care who's in office. What they want to do is what they're going to do. Well, and that's just where I kind of leave it. I don't mind. I mean,
What do you think about Black Lives Matter, though?
Black Lives Matter is a company, I thought, funded by people that are not black, funding black people. I know the founders are black, but Black Lives Matter and these people funding them means to me that I don't know, because every time I get asked this question, then I'm on Twitter and people say crazy things to me. So we're going to skip that one. Go ahead.
No, I'm just saying it seems to me that we live really in a politically divided country, especially that people are going to be more segregated on races. Do you believe at all in some form of nationalism?
Again, it's relative. I believe anybody that feels like they should be separated by race should separate themselves by race, and the people that feels like they shouldn't. And all I feel like is if people would stop attacking each other physically, just in general, arguments, problems, the violent situation in general, we wouldn't have any issues. If you don't like somebody, compete with them, in a healthy manner. But
Yeah.
besides that, whatever you want to do is what you want to do. You don't have to like anybody you don't want to like, because, you are in this fleshly body, and you do get to summon what spirit you want to summon, and whatever ones you like in your temple the most, those are the ones that should be able to dwell, as long as they don't bring destruction, because then they would be considered a demon, correct?
It feels like this should be more advocated on the internet. How could you advocate more people on the internet to read the Book of Miat or something?
Um, oh man, that's a very good question. I think that will go to marketing, not me.
Oh well, it's like you know about the alt right, correct?
No, what is that?
Okay, well, the alt right was is this it's this internet scene on the internet. And it's basically a bunch of white kids get on their computer and they sprout a
Hmm.
bunch of neo-Nazi stuff, and they basically offend everyone. And the alt right, supposedly with a Nazi cultural movement, has elected Donald Trump in, and it's pretty culturally
What do you
powered.
feel about Donald Trump?
Well, I'm saying is that the alt right probably elected Donald Trump in there. It took the internet, a culture on the internet, to get him in there. And so, if you think
Okay.
about that, it just shows you that
Hmm.
there's power on the internet, and that you can pretty much
Right.
it's where it's at. It seems like if you want to get your ideals out, you're going to have more of a presence
Mm-hmm.
on the internet, especially some cultural ground there. But right now, it seems like
Right.
the alt right is everywhere on the internet, and they have an upper hand.
Yeah. Are you aware that more black people actually voted for Donald Trump this time ever? And actually, black people voted for Republicans more than any time in any other era today,
That's
or this
interesting.
time with Trump.
I think I might know that. That is a very interesting
Yeah.
factor, though.
Yeah. It sounds like he was the right one. I mean, if I had to vote, I would have voted Trump.
I voted Trump too, so I don't care what people have to say with that. I mean, on my own
Yeah.
political background, I'm going to say this right ahead. I've been to several white nationalist events and been here and been that, but it's not like I fully associate with that white nationalist background. You see, I come from a whole alt right background where it comes from this weird city culture of just like it's underground, it's punk, you do these things, and you kind of have alliances and association with friends, and at the same time it's interesting. I don't really know how to describe it. I mean, I like politically, I understand that some people are very open about calling themselves a white nationalist. I feel today that it's like the word nationalist is getting very popular, as if people have now that's their new religion, where people are saying they're either white nationalists or just simply plain nationalists, even to the point of calling ethno states, where people in this multicultural and diverse society would rather just separate and split and go in their own neighborhoods. And then when everybody wants to go in the family kitchen, they can. But it seems to me people are better segregated. Do you agree on that, or is that kind of problematic?
Well, my law, my culture is relative again. It's most, if that's how people see it, some people might look at that as the way it should be. Some people might look at those actions as evil to think about. You get what I'm saying? So, however you look at it or whatnot, it's all relative. Everything's relative. And, I think what would actually fix these issues in general, just in life, is if we all realize that all of us or any of us can't see what that other person can see. We can't think what that other person thinks. We don't see it how they see it. We can both stand by a mountain and look at a mountain together, and we'll be looking at a mountain from two different angles in our head based on environmental remembrance. It might bring you back to a childhood era. It might bring somebody to a fantasy era. They've never been able to touch or see the mountains like that. Some people live in the desert forever and finally see a mountain. So however you still perceive that mountain, it's still relative within you. You know what I mean?
Um, that's interesting. Are there any Asian people in this movement?
Most definitely. Actually, if you would check out the Asian population that actually left Kemet, and they were actually Hyksos, right? They spreaded this culture all through Asia, maybe 3,000 years ago.
Well, interesting from that point of view. I mean, I'm a lot of friends with a lot of Northeast Asian friends, and
Right.
I would be considered half Asian myself. And it's a pretty
Right.
interesting culture, especially like you said, from a Shinto or
Awesome
Confucius
culture.
background. And I don't know if you know this or not. I advocate this thing called Asian Aryanism, which I believe that there's a lot of white nationalists having Asian girlfriends in the whole white nationalist scene, but they're keeping it
Mhm.
really quiet about it and secretive. There's
Right.
also a huge number of white male Asian females happening over in the multicultural and diverse game. And so what that's going to happen is that there's going to be this whole scene of half white Asian kids, and basically the white side or the Asian side is not going to accept them, so they're going to have their own Asian Aryan thing going on. And I just been tooting my horn and going this on the internet, and it's been working for a bit.
Is that like a mission? Is that like a mission to you know the Caucasian race that's breeding right now with other people? They're losing their white culture, right? Is this an attempt to destroy the white culture, or do
No,
you feel like
it's
whites were originally Asian, or how does that work?
well, the word Aryanism is whimsical. It's kind of, it's not referring to some like ultimate neo-Nazi Aryanism, and in no way I'm
Right.
trying to destroy white culture. However, it seems to be
Okay.
that Asian Aryanism is a plan B to something that is happening right now, and white nationalists know this. And so the only way they're going to turn that around is if they're going to tell their half white Asian kids, they're going to say, you should associate more, at least as this new racial identity you have, or on your white side, because supposedly today, most whites will go into this denial spree of being universal or whatever. And so it's a relatively small thing. Most Asian Aryans hang out at punk rock shows and art galleries and vegan restaurants, and their favorite bands is like Juju, Atari Teenage Riot, Mitski, whatever, things like that. And they all form in spaces, and it's a weird thing going on. It's like it's a mix between if Jim Goad and Margaret Cho had a child, and that's what you get. I don't know.
I hear you. I totally hear you. I totally hear you. So, what do you believe? What do you believe when it comes to the white population? You're losing the white population right now. What do you do about that?
Um,
What do
you
you
know,
feel?
the
How
alt
does that
right
work? How do
has
you fix that?
the alt right basically is issuing that. Now, I consider myself alt left, where that's basically the left wing faction of the alt right. And so my more focus is based upon freedoms and certain liberties that people have while having healthy normative value systems. I understand that there is a declining numbers of white people, and whites are going to address that either through groups like Identity Europa or National Policy Institute with Richard Spencer, and pretty much the whole alt right will do that. However, I would like for whites to survive in the future. There needs to be a preservation of every race, and that's a good thing. Um, Most people think they could just find themselves a white
Yeah, very
girlfriend,
much.
white on white. They think they can survive like that. Right now, all the white women are indoctrinated with feminism, and they basically are going.
Yeah,
They are not
black girls too,
following.
though. Black girls too.
Oh yeah,
That's a
yeah.
problem. Yeah,
I mean, I have a
I do have a problem with feminism.
yeah.
I do.
Can you
Almost
say
definitely.
more about why you find feminism like problematic, and there's like what's so wrong? What's wrong about feminism?
Yeah. Right, right. Uh, I just feel like feminism. I believe there's a balance in life. I believe there's a dual core balance, right? So, in order to have a balance, you have the yin and the yang. You have the masculine side. You have the feminine side. And when you speak about feminists, they don't they don't want to embrace that. They want to, I just say, you can't put all your paint together. It looks like shit. You know,
Yeah,
and I believe there's most definitely a balance. And if two people are on one side of the scale, you can't hold the scale.
yeah.
I am against feminism most definitely.
It seems
I get a lot of shit for that too. I lost like 1,000 followers in a day for saying something like that before, but it's okay.
it's funny because if you apply feminism to Asian women, it doesn't come out as the same feminism white girls or even black girls worship. What happens is
Oh, really?
when feminism happens to Asian women, the joke is it's referred to as yellow feminism. What happens is in feminism, they hate patriarchy universally. However, when feminism is interpreted by Asian women, they think of in terms of Asian patriarchy, meaning they don't like Confucianism or Shinto religion. So what ends up happening is that they dislike their Asian family background, but then rather find white patriarchy better, and then they go find themselves white men and white women to be with, or it's mostly girls, it's mostly Asian women go out with white men, and rather in the context of white feminism, which hates that because feminism wants to destroy universal patriarchy. So yellow feminism helps out Asian Aryanism, is because basically Asian girls get with white men and they basically put the values of white civilization within the context of Asian people. And that's what's so hilarious about this and so ironic.
Wow. So, okay, that's confusing a little bit. That's,
Yeah, it's an interesting study, but a lot of
yeah,
it's been
yeah.
being discussed on boards like Hapa Reddit. The Hapa Reddit hates it, but I'm actually been pushing it along so I can tease them, and then the Hapa Reddit gets ticked off at me. Those are my greatest enemies. They think there's a whole board on Reddit dedicated to hating Asian Aryanism, and it's called the Hapa Reddit, and they hate how they
That's
think
another. How many of you? What are you guys? Coaches? Are you cliques? What are you? What are you called?
It's
A
basically
lot of
Asians.
them.
It's basically Asians in America that associate with internet culture, and all this stuff goes down on the internet and not in reality.
Because this is internet culture.
Yeah,
Okay.
this is internet culture.
So you guys don't really have Asian
It
wives for real? It's all internet.
no,
It's all digital.
it could be digital and it's actually real. I mean, it's like it's the internet is a reflection of real life. But you're like you said, yeah, you're
Mm-hmm.
right. The alt right is a digital virtual reality fantasy, which has created cultural
Right.
movements such as the election of Donald Trump. However, Asian Aryanism is a reflection of the street culture that is happening in major cities like New York City, where it's just some punk kid with tattoos brings his Asian girlfriend to go see some like punk rock band that he likes, to go to art galleries, to go to vegan
Mm-hmm.
restaurants. They're there. They don't want to
Mm-hmm.
be aware about it.
I'm
So they
vegan.
use the internet to
Yeah.
talk about those racial issues. And so, for
Okay.
the example of the HAPA Reddit, the HAPA Reddit, HAPA Reddit, is basically a Reddit full of weak Asian males, Asian Americans who think they can't win in the multicultural and diverse game. So they complain and
These
blame the
are
white
Reddit games.
person. They blame the white person basically for all their failures, and they think they just want to commit suicide and be hedonistic simply because they think they're losers just for being Asian male, and they don't want white male Asian female happening, and rather have a preservation in Asian culture, which is pretty much misguided because their only enemies are Tila Tequila, Margaret Cho, and me, and so I'm basically their
Uh,
boogeyman, so in some strange respect.
word. Okay. Okay. Understood. But do they not understand that? Well, I'm not going to give them that ammo if you're against them.
No, give them ammo.
Uh, does it matter that I mean if an Asian blends with a with the Western European, what comes out as Asian?
That's what they want to believe, right? But they want to believe that, but at the same time, they just don't want it to come out as white. And Asian Aryanism would argue it either comes out as white or a new race. And HAPA basically says, nope, not new race, not white, Asian. The thing is, though,
Yeah.
I have to disagree too because not even the Asian side like they'll know like there's definitely an Asification definitely held out by China that one of the strategy is sending women out to different countries and getting Chinese genes out there. However, they all want to be under this Chinese system, which I could totally understand, but they're never accepted as pure Chinese and rather just agents for a giant hierarchy in the system.
Right. Right. Right.
And so they don't have a certain independence. And eventually they're going to break out and they're going to do something like Asian Aryanism is doing. And they're going to have their own third race or basically just go back and associate with white. And basically, if whites
Word.
decline,
Word.
they're going to be the new white people. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's what they're doing with the Hispanics as well over here. That's what they're saying too, that the Hispanics have to get ready to become the new Caucasian. But I mean, a Caucasian comes from the Caspian Sea. They come from the Black Sea. They come from the Caucasus Mountains. So that's why they would be called Caucasian. There's a lot of other tribes there that you guys don't have to just hold on to that one. There's tons. There's tons. And
Yeah.
I don't know. Like that's just like saying there's one black tribe. I mean, there really kind of is, but there kind of isn't because there's a lot of different tribes, a lot of different languages. We lost Tasmania. We lost Tasmania to a war. We lost everybody in Tasmania. Everybody was slaughtered. But there's still black people. We're still black. I mean,
what do you think of Liberia?
Liberia. What, the wars going on in Liberia?
The country, the wars,
Liberia?
the situation as a whole, Liberia.
Liberia. That's a problem when it comes to internal doctrine. A lot of people in Liberia are being, paid. That's really the problem in Africa right now. People are being paid. And you could do whatever you want. You can exploit the country how you want to get what land or whatever you want over there. I mean, they call it the land of the free, or what do they call Liberia? They call it.
It's basically they send all the
land of the free.
They send all the.
They call it the land of the free, but there's nothing free there.
Exactly, because what they did was it was an American project to send all the black slaves to their own unique ethno-state, in Africa, and really just there was no guidance, and it just became
that's very true.
Wasteland.
That's
and
very
so
true. That's very true.
Putting that in the emphasis of everyone's saying there's going to be a racial civil war breakout in the next 10 or 20 years. Right. We're going to have a bunch of racial ethno-states. Now, is America going to be separated in 6 Liberia states or?
I mean, America's an experiment. Liberia was an experiment. It's still famine. It's still war. There's still issues. There's still famine here. I mean, there's war on the streets. I know amongst my people there's still war.
Interesting.
So,
I know.
Very, very possible.
Yeah, it seems like anything is possible. But when people,
but highly possible, shall I say? Because there is a divide in the country right now as well. I just don't know how it's going to turn out. But I believe in Trump, and I believe he might be the good guy compared to anybody because, the media, everybody shut Trump down and made it look like he was going to lose for sure. And there was no chance that he was going to win. They lied to try to persuade the people. But the people find out now they can't be persuaded besides these feminists in California.
Yeah.
But,
yeah. Do you advocate any form of multiculturalism, multiracialism, or diversity? Or not really?
I don't.
Interesting.
I don't really advocate a whole lot of anything right now besides this book. Would I is a better question, and I would. You know what I mean? Because I believe we were all one people once upon a time. I believe the only real issue and the real problem right now is the family that's in there. I don't really necessarily believe that everybody made the same decisions with life, and I believe there's good people everywhere. So can somebody love another good person? I believe so. And
it seems like whenever somebody is African or black in today's American climate, they have to belong to the multicultural or multiracial project. But what ends up happening is they end up segregating or having their own black nation-run states, and that just seems like more of a healthier thing to do.
I mean, that's what happens. You always give whoever a chance to, like we're collaborating right now.
Yeah.
You see? And I'm just happy you showed me the actual art of your show before, I came here. It's not a surprise or, none of that's, But the issue is that we can still have a conversation. We can still air things out, and we can still make sure, everything's proper. And I believe that's awesome. And would we withdraw from each other working? I don't think so, because there's a lot of content that could be provided and a lot of audience that could be covered. But at the end of the day, it's more so based on, I think the poverty part actually locks people or makes people separate because one person wants more than another person. I believe that's how it goes all the time.
Have you?
You know, all the time with everybody, with with the blacks in against slavery when I'm sorry, there's just so many different places I can go, but man, that's the case. I'm not trying to run off. I hope they're editing it.
Have you ever heard the joke? There's a joke going on the alt-right internet scene, and the joke goes, "We was Kangs." Have you ever heard of that before? We was Kangs.
Yeah, we was kings. Yeah, actually, I've been ran up and approached by people on Twitter about that, and I love battles. I love the war. I love them to come because I believe there's some people that are called subtractors, and subtractors are the people that actually make sure you still got yours. You got your thought process right. You got everything you got right. So you allow people to attack you, right? You allow them to attack you. And that's the way to be able to measure your structure. How strong is your base?
Because it seems to
So I
me
love people that do that.
on the
I love
alt
people.
right, they call this the esoteric black nature. They joke and they say, "We was Kangs. We build the pyramids. We built all this great black civilization." And then the alt right jokingly refers to this big. You'll see this a lot, especially on the rightstuff.biz or some of these far right forums where, it's funny that somebody is going to approach you and say, "We was Kangs," right?
Yeah, yeah. But that's awesome though. I mean, I believe well, how do you when you talk about your religion and your culture more deeper like into spirituality about it? How do you believe we even got here on Earth? How did we get here?
I mean, think about getting on Earth. I mean, the only thing I know is that I was born from a mother and a father, and that I am a human being on the planet Earth. A very scientific way, and I do know that there is definitely
Right,
you could do a religious background, a philosophical background, or any abstract
right,
senses from any individual. However, that's really up in the
right,
open. There's many truths of the world, but it seems to me that there's always this one universal truth, and it seems that the biggest universal truth
right.
everyone relates to, and that ends up being like religion, like Christianity or something of the nature.
Yeah, but how could that be the biggest and it's the newest
Yeah.
or the second or third to newest almost? You got Jehovah's Witness, you got Islam, but Christianity came, right before Islam, and then after before that you got Krishna, and before Krishna you got ISIS,
Huh.
and before ISIS you have no one. You have Krishna, and then before Krishna you have Inky, but after Inky, before Inky you have ISIS. So what comes before them? What actually would stop you from going to the oldest thought process in the world and looking at it? Because
Some
somebody had to either tell them or they had to see it. And my question is, if somebody told them, why can't you find any scriptures older than their scriptures? And why can't you find no, and people say, oh, it's buried, it's easy to find. I mean, it's hard to find. But what about when these people are building things that nobody's ever built, or guaranteed with proof of scientific things that another man couldn't even ponder? How does that relate to their spirituality? Would be all one and the same, right?
uh like it's funny
Okay,
because some people, especially on the alt right, some people read J.R.R. Tolkien's The Silmarillion, this fictional account of Middle Earth, as actually some strange European truth. One of the actually, it's an often read book a lot, and some people will actually see fiction as a way as looking into this past, and definitely has some connection and roots, and especially learning about any historical. I love the whole Shinto religion and backdrop of that. There's definitely interesting gods and demigods to learn about.
in Shinto, yeah.
I mean, for
You actually went to Japan for the
yeah,
Shintoism, or did you?
oh yeah, for a bit, I did,
Okay, okay,
but
awesome.
it wasn't that. It was just very brief. It was more like vacation, and it was more like a few weeks of just studying, and then
You just went to the shrine. Went to the shrine.
yeah, I went to one shrine, but
Okay.
yeah, which like it's fascinating though because Tradition seems to be a very important part of this generation. That you mean that you become more meaningful when you connect to these things of the past and then interpret it as a life philosophy. I definitely find that as a certain truth. It also means being loyal to someone
Yeah,
of a background you belong
yeah,
with. And to me, it seems like
great.
you're also loyal to a big legacy that you belong to. That's what explains in the book of
Right.
Miat.
Most definitely. Most definitely. That's very true.
How did you
That's
get
very
into the,
true.
did how did you actually get into this? Did you didn't write this, right? It's not something you
No,
wrote.
I didn't write the book.
Okay.
No,
How did you get
I'm
into the
not God. I'm not God. Um, I got in. What do you mean? What drew me to read the book, or how did I get into the culture?
culture and the book and just leading up to what your views are now?
Oh man, just from a kid, man. I've always my father's Kemetic. I just grew into being Kemetic. My mother's not. That led me to Christianity. My uncles is a Muslim on my mom's side, so it taught me Islam.
Interesting.
That third time I seen something, that's when I went and looked crazy myself, and learned about the other places. I went to school, South New Hampshire for pre-colonial history. Graduated from there, and it's just always been a thought in my head that what Mr. Slim said. What the hell is Slim's name? Carlos Slim. What Carlos Slim said, in order to know where you're going, you got to know where you came from. And I know he wasn't the originator of it, but that's just the kind of situation that's stuck in my head, and that's what drives my whole life. And I looked for a book that we couldn't find, and I was looking around, and found out how come we couldn't find a book that actually suits Black people that wasn't touched by anybody else but Black people.
Interesting. Yeah.
So I then went ahead and set up a whole project. We do got a lot of similarities to Boja's book, but at the end of the day, it's like he was right in a lot of the translations. But we did go scrape the translations, and we did compare every scholar and respected everybody and kept them all in heart. But the reason why I did get the copyright for the book, even though it's old, is because it was actually translated properly. So I do have real copyrights to it, and I just really did it at first for my children and for all Black people that don't actually have a leg to stand on, because we have to go deal with King James, and people don't know how to read the Torah. So I brought an African spirituality book to the world, and I hope everybody actually enjoys it. And it's also important to remember Africa was multicultural and multi-talented. So.
When you
Yeah,
mean
that's why I do what I do.
when you mean multi cultural, do you mean that is there one race, or are there multiple races, or?
Yeah, man. There's one race. It's the human race.
Okay.
You know what I mean? But when we start talking about these hues, we could talk about hue if we were talking about hue and humans, and Africa. Still today, and even back then, and even if you look at the oldest person in the world, brother, they're light skinned.
Mm-hmm.
The oldest DNA culture in the world are the San people, right? The
Yeah.
San people of South Africa, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so with these San people, you know how they look. They're really light skinned. So from there to there, and there's always been multiple hues in Africa.
Yeah,
There was evil
it's
people that changed things, or evil people that took over and didn't want to keep it the way it was. What color was that person? I don't know.
because most people will say an evil white man took it over, and they took it and they took everything the blacks made and they reinterpret it as their own Western civilization. But from what I'm
Well,
hearing,
your girlfriend was the first problem.
what? Well, my girlfriend is
Your girlfriend, yeah, the Hicks, the Asians were the first problem in Africa.
yeah, it's funny. Yeah, yeah. I mean, I'm saying, yeah, that's what I'm
Yeah,
saying. She's a
yeah,
Chinese
yeah.
American, but Yeah, that's funny you say that.
Right. Yeah.
You mean that as an
Just
all?
just kidding with you, man. Kidding with you.
No, I know.
Most definitely. Yeah, 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 man. No, but honestly, yeah, they're the first, you know. So it wasn't even if you want to call him the white man. I mean, the only reason I call him the white man is because when I call him the European, then other people are like, oh, I'm European, and you're talking about me. So I just kind of got to go by hue. But because the culture was one culture. It was the Caucasian, Caucasus Mountain culture, and then you had the Dravidians, and you got these other cultures. But we're just talking about you right now, and we'll talk about just
it's funny
white
because
people.
in it's weird to think about that in the past 30 or 40 years of the American project, multiculturalism and diversity and this whole racial egalitarianism was propagated by a liberal, white, and somewhat Jewish elite in order to basically
Yeah,
sedate everybody to believe we belong to this one system, and eventually we'll create one race, this mishmash cafe au lait brown skinned person. When really what has happened is that it has made people more racially segregated, or at least basically whites have been learned to not think in terms of being white racially aware, and thing more privilege, not privilege, but more access has been given to white liberal blacks that started the whole Black Lives Matter thing, and more stuff to other
hmm
things, and everyone is just crazy at this point. And if you try to tell this to a white person, they'll just go in denial about it and say everything, and that makes the thing worse. They're called racist for it. The word racist even has to do. It's
right,
almost like some say it was invented by a black guy, Lawrence Dennis. That was one of the oldest origins. Some even say Leon Trotsky. Some even say that it was just a white people terminology to help them with other races distinguish who's in winning the racial game. But the point is
right,
that white people are basically in its own pickle, is because they made up all this stuff, and now they're trapped in their own multicultural hell that they've made, and now either they must resort to some form of nationalism, or some form of multiracialism, or just plain chaos on the internet. And according to you said, what's your stance on the whole Jewish question about how Jews play a part in this?
I didn't hear. I've never heard that they wanted to mash us up together. I've always heard that there's people that want to separate us, and but to me, in reality, all that's theory too. So I don't really want to pick one because it could be damn near any one of them. You know what I mean? And I believe that the Jews were black first.
Yeah, that's often.
Yeah.
I've met someone who is black and Jewish, and he kind of told me the same thing. Could you more elaborate
Yeah.
on that?
Well, simply without much scholarship behind what I'm going to say, there's my disclaimer. I just speak to a lot of Africans that actually are Jewish there, and they tell me that their great, 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 great grand parents are Jewish, and
Yeah, there's a group of
they've always been Jewish.
there's a group
I've talked to them personally.
there's a group of Chinese called the Kenfeg Jews in China, and they believe they are associated with
Yeah.
the Jews. But I'm not so sure about that traditional background religion, since Judaism is really hard to understand, whatever side you're coming
hmm
from. And yeah, it's funny to think that way if Jews are black, and that meaning once you said, like you said, that Africa, or no, black, or the black background has this unique
Yeah.
ancient civilization behind that. I mean, why don't more
No,
black?
I believe more. I don't know if it's just black people with that ancient civilization. I'm not saying only black people built the civilization. I'm not saying that. But what I am saying is that we do know where it was located, right?
Yeah, Africa.
Yeah. So, but that's it. I'm not stating that it was only black people that built it.
Interesting. So you would be all for
Yeah.
the ideal of any multiracial person coming into the religion, but they have some devotional traditions according to the Book of Miat, right?
Some what kind of traditions?
Like what you're saying, like the traditions you're talking about. There's it's a certain way of, I don't know exactly what you go about doing on your religious day or what philosophies exactly that is held by the book, but if people were to
the
be
the
converted,
philosophy that's held by the book, I could summon that real easy. The philosophy that's summoned by the book is simple and straight to the point. It is what you do to somebody will happen to you. If it doesn't happen to you, then it can happen to a line down your genes. It can happen to your kid. It can happen to your daughter.
So if I yell at somebody and tell them I don't like them, and then that some karma is going to come back to me or my next generation of offspring that I will have, and what comes to you comes back to me, and so I have to be a good person to others. Correct?
Karma is exactly where the word Ma'at actually, the word was Ma'at before it was karma. And then see when we go there, where we speak about now, where we're speaking about how it was actually mixed. I don't necessarily see yelling at somebody on the walls in my out of virtues of what not to do. It's more of an inside situation of how you actually create your peace about what you do. It's actually a part of yoga. Actually, is in the book of Mayat. You can find that on the walls of ancient Kim. You can find yoga, and but what Maya actually really represents, based based on what you're with that part about yelling, or what the actual physical reciprocation comes from, or what happens is whatever you do in life summons energy amongst you. We believe that the world is alive and everything moves and everything interacts and everything knows it in its own way. So energy that's collected within the world or the universe or by the ancestors, we believe that a lot of this stuff around here it comes from our ancestors, or our ancestors are actually here in whole bodies. Yeah. Right, and spiritual bodies. So the issue behind understanding karma would be, just because you yell at somebody, does that mean somebody's actually going to yell at you? Does that mean that you're going to have a heart attack tomorrow? Probably not. But the energy is in the air, and that energy is based on your doing. You brought that energy to this world. And in order for you to bring that energy, your body has to balance back out. In order for your body to balance back out, you have to get that energy back. Just like water, if you pee, you have to drink water and replenish the water.
Yeah. No, it's that's like a very healthy way of thinking, such as like chakras. Yeah. Are you kind of in the believer of chakras, or?
My friends are. I'm not.
All right.
I'm not saying they don't exist either, but I do know about them. I know all about them. I did all those studies as well, but that's I can't. I've never seen a chakra.
Now, this might sound a little outlandish. Do you believe in extraterrestrial or alien life? That there's like green Martian men or something out there? Can you explain more about that? That's always fascinated me. I love science fiction and fantasy, but to the point where aliens are real, I'd like to know.
I believe in aliens. I believe most definitely in aliens, because and based off of all the books, all the holy books, all the books you think about or you see, everything came from the stars. Everything came from a sign in the star. To me, and my thought process, reading the Bible, just reading it, to me it says that Jesus came down here on a star, crash landed basically, or was the star, came down here and actually went into somebody and was born. To me, that's how I see it. I don't know any other way to see it. I don't think I'm jumping to conclusions, considering there was two angels flying in the sky above them, and they're telling everybody what he is or who he was. That's their account. That's what they wrote. It's not like it's an airplane. So it was people that came. Where did the angels come from? They came from the sky. Where is the sky? It's outer space. There's star temples based in India. There's star temples in South Africa. There's star temples in South America. In the Python cave, there's evidence of star worship. 70,000 year old ritual. This ritual found in the world. You can find it in South Africa by the San people, the same San people that traveled the Nile and went to Egypt. Their story of somebody coming out of the water is the same as everybody else's. So when we talk about aliens, most definitely, I believe aliens actually inhabit this earth. I believe that's where we come from. I totally believe we come from the sky.
Is there aliens on Mars, or they're just out there beyond our own solar system?
I think they're beyond our solar system.
You think they could be like on Mars? We just don't know it yet.
No, I believe if an alien knew where we were right now that was not part of our family, that they would destroy us immediately. And from what I understand, the Mars aliens are gray, right? They're gray aliens supposedly, and they don't like us, and they lost a war or something like that, or whatever. But I hear that stuff too. But if
There's
that's the case, then that's really the truth. They would have came and fucked us up.
is there aliens like in
That's
the
us. Am I right
ocean
there?
or like underwater, like on our planet, or not really? Is it just out in
I
space?
don't believe so. I do
There.
believe it's in.
Here's the
I
thing.
believe there's alien water life, like life and all that is alien to us. But I don't believe no extraterrestrial, super intelligent being is in the water waiting on us, and they haven't did anything to us. I believe anybody would have already made a move on us.
There's a band I like called Drexcia. They're like this old school like
Yeah,
1980s. Do you like Drexcia?
never heard of them.
Okay, Drexcia was like from 80s, early 90s. They're from I think Detroit or Chicago. They had a very
Oh,
similar they made like acid house music, and they would often flirt with this African or black ideal that there are aliens in the ocean, right? And that supposedly by
right.
summoning the spirits through like weird acid house music could those spirits come out. And they seem to be flirting with that Drexcia. I would suggest to go look them up. Drexciya. Drexcia. They're still around. I mean, there's one of the guys died, but there's another guy who's
hmm
making music under Japanese Telecom and some other works. He's really interesting.
Well, throughout the Book of Mayat, there's a lot of summoning when it comes to chanting and music. So I believe that's what they're doing, and they might be onto something.
Well, they've been around for like 30
Uh,
something years, and I don't know. They're cool. I mean, what you call Gerald Donald's pretty awesome. But back on the whole, it seems like if you were to tell anyone this, they would think it's scoff it off as science fiction or fantasy. Would be the main like evidence or reason why they should like understand that this is more true than ever, right?
okay, okay. Well, I don't know. I don't have a comment for that.
Okay, so it's just by like emotion or by like seeing something, some will that you just see a miracle by God, or you see it and then you realize that this is all truth. Or if you just read the book, you'll become converted in some way.
I just believe read the book and use it as a supplement. See if it answers any questions for you that you had about your holy book.
All right. Well,
I believe that it would solve that issue, a lot of those issues, because a lot of people don't understand. Like in the Bible, do you believe in the Bible at all?
somewhat, yeah.
Okay. Do you know? And people say you can't believe in the Bible halfway. You can only believe in the Bible fully or not at all, right?
Yeah.
And I don't agree. I'm like you. I'm on that. I'm on that fringe. There's things in it true somewhat when it comes to lessons or whatnot. It depends on to what degree you believe in it. Again, it's relative. We could be speaking about two different somewhats. But in the Bible, when we speak about isn't it written in your law that ye are gods? So Jesus treated them like gods, and they're talking about the book of Jasher. Where the hell is the book of Jasher?
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of holes to a lot of interesting origins. It's fascinating to think like that way.
Yeah, the book of Maya answers the question of where the book of Jasher is. So that's it's a great supplement. It's a great supplement to fix a lot of those leaks in most cultures.
Like what should I call it? I'm writing a book right now. It's gonna come out in a few months. I don't think it's gonna be
Okay, awesome.
a religious book, but it's more like a couple of collection of sex romance stories with white male Asian females and some fun form
A
of
lot of things.
avant-garde stuff like that. In some way, somebody can read it
Okay.
as religious, but it's not that religious in a way.
But
It's just more like a lifestyle ism, right? It seems to me that people learn and read lifestyles and then adopt it to action. If someone was to read The Catcher in the Rye and understand that Holden Caulfield is a kid alone in 1950s America, they can then understand that. And it seems to me that you have to be a part of culture to understand which you and I are coming from, right? Or is it relative?
right, most definitely. It's relative, but you know, you would have to be on the quest, most definitely, to get this far, to have that much understanding, that accumulation of knowledge, in order to be even curious about questions that we have. So I believe it does require a bunch of knowledge of a few bundles of a few things before you can ask that question. It's like almost novice, and
On your one video, you say that Africa is home to the first hero ever recorded in history, right?
yes, yes,
Who's that?
yes. You didn't find it on that commercial. You didn't find any racism. Did you find
No,
racism?
no, no, I don't.
Did it
I'm
strike
just
you as racist?
fascinating. I'm kind of
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. Awesome. Yeah. But go ahead. What were you saying?
no, I just find it interesting that there's definitely a huge background on that. I mean, for my own racial politics, I believe,
Right. Right.
people have their own self-determination and people go flocking to people like themselves. All you have to do is just respect other people's interest and just respect your own
Right.
space and understand who you are. It seems like nobody really understands it today in like the 21st century and beyond. So it's going to be really annoying because I think this will be a huge century of people just racially connecting and understanding oneself. That's how I look at it.
Right. Right. Most definitely. And yeah, the hero, the actual. That's funny you say that. The actual hero on there teaches you to believe in oneself. And the first hero that hero that actually did that, his name was Hero. Hero.
Okay. Yeah.
Horus.
Are you
Horus. Hero translates to hero. Exactly. Directly to it. Horus translates to hero. Hero translates, or Hebrew translates to Horus, but Hero also translates to a hero.
in the
And he was the first story ever created. He's even older than the Epic of Gilgamesh.
are in the movie The Matrix, there's this thing where it's like you take the red pill or the blue pill. If you take the blue pill, you
Right.
go back to reality, nothing really happens. But if you take the red pill, you are awakened and you understand all the problems around you. Are you in some way trying to book of Miat pill everyone or something? Or pill with some
Yes, I
information?
am.
That's okay, that's
With
pretty
with
funny.
with with
I'm trying to
with
yellow
shaded
pill.
sunglasses and a black suit on.
Yep, I'm trying to yellow pill everyone into Asianarianism, and you're trying to pill everyone into Book of Miat. I'll probably have to pick up your book too soon, so I'll just I gotta put some money on my card and I'll get it and just have it in my library. I have
Oh,
the
that's awesome. I'll send you a free copy, brother. You don't have to pay for a copy.
okay. I mean
I'll never do
I
that.
have the holy tablets somewhere. I always think that's interesting in my collection. But I'm always looking out for fun books and funky stuff like that. So yeah, I really enjoy, and it seems that yes, the internet is full of pilling stuff going on, and hence why I am the Pilleater. Why I'm Pilleater. But
Right.
we're reaching the hour right now, so I'm just gonna
All
close
right.
the conversation. But is there anything you would also like to say?
Oh no, I greatly appreciate you, my brother. I thank you for everything. I love what you do. I would love to, you know, talk to you about what you're doing with your book. I would like to know what you're doing with your book.
When it comes out,
I
you'll
might
get
have some
to
ideas
know
for
what it
that as
is.
well.
But
Heck yeah.
when it comes
And
out,
I
you'll
appreciate
know.
everything.
But
Yeah.
thank you, my
Oh, most
brother.
definitely.
My brother,
Yes,
brother.
sir. Nice to meet you, King.
Nice to
You
meet
stay
you.
safe and you supplement up with those supplemental pills of the Book of
Yep.
Maya, and let me know what's going on, man. I
All
appreciate you.
right. Take care.
All right. See you, brother.